A close call, a moment of danger when life can hang in the balance.
I could die here, this is really serious.
A split second where the outcome could go either way.
Right, call 999 now.
The difference between disaster and survival.
You could see it on the faces of the crew, how life-threatening this was.
Why would you need to swim? Apparently they're supposed to still be on a boat.
These are the people that have been there and lived to tell the tale.
I thought she had died.
It's a day they'll never forget. The day they had a close call. Today on Close Calls. A holiday fishing trip leaves two best friends fighting to survive in the swells of the Atlantic Ocean. Their boat's gone down, no one is sure where they are, and they've already drifted for miles.
No GPS coordinates, just an approximation of where the boat was in distress and sinking.
We've got nothing around us for miles. We can see land, but it's a long way off. What are we going to do now?
The Atlantic Ocean, 13 miles off the coast of the Dominican Republic. A group of 11 desperate shipwreck survivors, including two British holidaymakers, cling to each other in a 25-foot swell. They've been in the water more than 7 hours. On shore, their wives have just discovered their husbands are missing.
And then he said, it's okay, they'll be fine, they're good swimmers.
When he said that to me, alarm. Why would you need to swim? Apparently they're supposed to still be on a boat.
But it's sunk. And now its passengers and crew aren't just holding on to each other, they're struggling to hold on to life. Close pals Steve and Craig have known each other since they were teenagers. They first met when Steve took a job working behind the bar in Craig's dad's pub 30 years ago.
We got on really well, so we started with his group of friends as well, going out, doing things that you do.
The basis of this lasting friendship is a shared sense of humour and love of fun, and they've been there for each other for all of life's big moments.
I was best man at his wedding, he was best man at my wedding. We've gone out, played football together, stag do's, golf trips, things like that. We get on really well.
Their wives, Sarah and Jill, became best friends too.
He'd obviously been friends with them for a long time, went out sociably and got along with them very well, and enjoy a lot of the same things.
The four pals have enjoyed many holidays together over the years, travelling across the globe, sharing their love of sunshine and sport.
We like to ski and dive, so we generally do one in the summer for the diving, obviously, and then Europe in the winter for a bit of skiing.
We're not really lay on the beach type people, so if there's an activity, we'll be doing it, and we're lucky enough that they enjoy the same activities we do.
But what happens on a summer break in the Caribbean cements the bond between them for life. It's September, and the foursome are enjoying an all-inclusive holiday in the Dominican Republic. As always, they've planned a very active trip.
Done 2 days diving. We'd booked up the deep sea fishing for the Friday, and then the following day we were going to go whitewater rafting in the mountains, which sounded great.
On day 3, the girls decide it's time for a morning by the pool, while the boys head off on their fishing trip with a local boat captain.
I was looking forward to the trip. It gets me off the beach, it gives us something to do.
They head for the harbour and meet up with 7 other tourists, 4 men and 3 women, all different nationalities who've booked the same trip.
Got down to the boat, which was a nice new sort of American-style sports fishing boat, probably a couple of years old. And I remember saying to Craig, oh, this is lovely, we'd have this in Portsmouth Harbour and we could go fishing on this. We were just on a high. It was a lovely day. We were going fishing.
The boat has a skipper and a first mate. They set sail almost immediately, but there's no safety briefing.
I guess because you're in holiday mode, you think you're being looked after and you're not in a position that you need to worry about it. The captain started by telling us he had 30 years' experience. You felt confident in his presence, you know, he did seem to know what he was doing.
They head out just before 9 a.m. with 4 hours fishing time to look forward to. About 5 miles out, they get lucky.
this fish came flying out of the water with the lures on. The captain said it's probably 450 pound blue marlin, and then the adrenaline started running.
But even as they celebrate their catch, Steve begins to notice the back end of the boat is retaining water.
But the captain was like, I mentioned it to him, and he said, yeah, we'll be swimming in the back here, soon. Well, the back of the boat is a wet deck, basically, so the water's supposed to come in and out of there anyway. There's a door in the back to bring the big fish in, but the water wasn't going back out.
Within minutes, the water level begins rising rapidly.
But then the captain seemed to come slightly agitated about something, and then someone said there's water in the cabin.
One of the crew starts frantically bailing out with a bucket.
I thought that, this is desperate. You could tell that things weren't working out well.
Within minutes, the boat begins to sink. One more big wave and it's going down, taking Steve, Craig and everyone else with it. The captain has only seconds to summon help. He reaches for the radio.
He told them that we're taking on water and that the engines have failed. But I don't think he had any more time to say anything more than that.
The Mayday gets picked up by the Puerto Plata military base, home of the island's search and rescue team. American Leon Alter, an expert advisor in search and rescue for 35 years, is on hand. He immediately takes charge of the operation.
I got an alert at about 10:45 in the morning, 11 o'clock, that a boat was going down in the ocean approximately 7 miles offshore from Maimon, which is west of Puerto Plata.
But the information on the boat's position is sketchy.
No GPS coordinates, just an approximation of where the boat was in distress and sinking.
And Leon knows strong winds and currents will pull survivors further out to sea.
So we were starting from an approximate location about a mile back from where approximately they said they went down, and doing grid searches for over a 5 mile to 7 mile radius in that area.
Using all the island's military resources, he dispatches 2 helicopters, 3 rescue boats, and a Super Tucano aircraft. As one of the helis takes to the air, a colleague on the ground films. Out in the swells of the Atlantic, the fishing boat is listing at a 30-degree angle. Craig frantically searches for life jackets.
We've realised there's not enough to go round.
He said, but I've given them all out. You and I haven't got one.
What do you do now? You can't stay on the boat. You have to get off the boat.
Craig had another quick look in the stowages that the life jackets were in and found 2 buoyancy aids. They weren't life jackets, but they were just little yellow square things, which he had one in each hand, which kept him afloat. I noticed there was a buoy tied onto the handrail, so I undone the knot, put a slip knot on, put it around my waist, and at that point it was evident that people were getting in the water, and I had to basically jump off the bow. It was a very strange feeling. When I jumped off that bow, I felt like I was in the air for about an hour. It was just a very surreal thing to have to do.
The boat slips slowly beneath the waves, leaving the group of 11 men and women floating in shark-infested waters a mile deep and at least 5 miles off land. Steve and Craig encourage everyone to keep together, and they form a huddled group.
We didn't even know each other's names, really.
The mood in the water at that point was probably a state of shock. We're just trying to experience a nice day out, and all of a sudden we've got nothing around us for miles. We can see land, but it's a long way off. What are we going to do now?
Later, hopes rise when a sailing yacht appears on the horizon.
We thought that was our saviour.
But turn to despair when it fails to see them.
You were just thinking, was that the last chance? I was getting ready that I wouldn't come back.
In the Atlantic Ocean, more than 10 miles off the Dominican Republic, best friends Steve and Craig are being pulled further and further out to sea. Their holiday fishing trip has become a nightmare. The boat's gone down and they're floating helplessly in a 25-foot swell with 7 other tourists and 2 boat crew.
We've got nothing around us for miles. We can see land, but it's a long way off. What are we going to do now?
They're pretty sure a search has been launched. In the far, far distance, they can just make out aircraft, which appear to be scouring the seas.
We figured we'd be there for an hour probably, the captain had assured us he got a call out. They knew that the engines had failed and that we were taking on water. We just thought, let's hang tight for an hour and we'll see what happens.
But as the hour passes, hope turns to fear. The aircraft don't appear to be getting any closer. 2 hours pass. 3 hours.
You know the helicopters have been out looking for you because you can see them. But because initially when the boat went down, we were already further out than we should have been, they were never going to see us from that far away.
Back at the hotel, the men's wives, Sarah and Jill, are beginning to wonder what's happened to their husbands.
Jill started to get a bit worried about 1:30, saying, they should be back by now. I said, you know what they're like, they've probably gone for a drink.
After another hour, they ask hotel reception if the fishing trip is back.
He just looked at us and said, all of a sudden, there's been a bit of an incident. To which we replied, what type of incident, what do you mean? And he said, there's been a problem with the boat.
Sarah and Jill head to the marina to see if they can find out more.
And we spoke to one of the dive people, asked him what was going on, and he said, it's okay, they'll be fine, they're good swimmers.
When he said that to me, alarm, just pure alarm. Why would you need to swim? Why would you need to swim? Apparently they're supposed to still be on a boat.
The 2 women are gripped with fear. Meanwhile, their partners are battling even rougher seas and suffering from the searing 30-degree heat.
The swell is massive. It's like 25 foot, some of the bigger ones. So we're constantly getting washed over by the waves, swallowing water.
They've been drifting for 6 hours. They're all beginning to show signs of severe dehydration and sunstroke. The water is a warm 28 degrees, but their bodies are starting to get cold.
Keeping sort of warm by just not swimming because we knew we were never going to make the land, but just gently kicking our legs to keep the body temperature up.
It's now 5 p.m. There are only 2 hours of daylight left, a concern for rescue coordinator Leon.
As soon as it goes dark and they can't see, let's say they can't see lights on shore, panic could start to set in, so it was imperative to find them during daylight hours.
Steve and Craig's concerns are also growing as daylight fades. But then, a moment of elation. Steve spots a boat on the horizon.
We thought that was our saviour.
All 11 tried desperately to attract attention.
We were screaming and shouting and waving.
For one heart-stopping moment, the boat appears to slow down. But then it simply sails on by.
It was a really bad moment because you're thinking like that, that this is it.
You were just thinking, was that the last chance? I was getting ready in my mind that I wasn't coming back.
But Leon and the rescue team aren't giving up. They continue searching, trying to estimate which direction any survivors might have drifted. Then, out of the blue, a pilot catches a flash of orange amongst the 25-foot waves. He dives down for a closer look.
We start waving at that, and when that comes over the top, and it did its wingtip dips, it was such a feeling of elation.
They've been found, 13 miles from where their boat went down. Back in Puerto Plata, Leon orders a helicopter to the scene. A team member films as it races off.
The helicopter headed out to do the extraction with a pilot, a co-pilot, and 2 SAR rescuers.
But back at the hotel, distraught wives Sarah and Jill haven't heard the news.
You don't want to admit it to yourself, but it's there. It's like we've come on a trip and I could be going home without him. Steve means everything. He's my life.
With the increased military activity, news starts to trickle through. They spot a holiday rep.
He turned around with such a look, I actually thought it was the worst news ever.
I just saw her sort of fling her arms round him, and I ran across, and that's when they told us they found. That's when they told us they were safe. And that's when we found out they'd been in the water all that time. We didn't know. We had no idea. It was just a relief. It was just an utter relief.
But the men's ordeal isn't over yet. This footage shows the moment the rescue helicopter reaches them. The crew of another aircraft film as it moves into position. Below, still huddled together, the group of 11 are tossed about by the waves. A rescue swimmer is already in the water. He's leapt from the chopper and is battling his way through the heavy swell to reach them. He grabs the nearest survivor and heads back to the helicopter, now hovering just meters above the ocean. But it's going to take more than one man to save all 11 exhausted survivors. Another rescuer plunges into the sea and battles the swell to reach them.
We're obviously happy to see the helicopter, but we are getting tired. A lot of kicking of the legs. I'm running on adrenaline because the rescue's going on.
With the waves crashing and the sun beginning to set, the first survivor is pulled upwards. A member of the heli crew sits in the doorway, ready to haul him in. The rescuers work as quickly as they can. This footage shows the chaotic scenes as the seventh survivor is pulled to safety. There's no more space. The chopper is crammed with survivors and crew, and it's at its weight limit. The pilot must return to base. But down below, 4 people are still in the water, clinging to hope and each other. Steve and Craig are 2 of them.
You've just got to keep thinking that, yeah, you will get out, you will make it. You can't give up, you've got to stay there and keep swimming.
But just as the men are steeling themselves for a wait, over the top of a wave, Steve spots something.
There's this lifeboat. Oh, right, OK. Let's get on that.
The final 4 are plucked from the waves to safety.
It was a very emotional time, you know, to get out of that water and know that you actually are going to go back home and see your wives and your friends, your family, and have a tale to tell.
This is the scene back at the military base in Puerto Plata when, with the sun setting behind the trees, the first 7 survivors land. But for Sarah and Jill, it's another 2 long hours before they're reunited with their loved ones. At 9 p.m, 12 hours after the men set off for a 4-hour fishing trip, they arrive back at the marina. They're taken straight to hospital, where their wives meet them.
Just walked straight in, kissed him. Just total relief.
We had a bit of a hug and a few tears.
Couldn't believe it when I saw him. Just gave him a big hug. Cuddled him. He was freezing. He looked awful, but it was just lovely to see him again and so happy, really.
Seeing your wife after not expecting to live, yeah, it's another moment of supreme joy, and you want to hold on to them and not let go for a while, you know.
Steve and Craig spend the night in hospital, hooked up to saline drips and covered in medicated cream to counter their severe dehydration and sunburn. Back at the military base, it's mission accomplished for Leon.
In my 7 years in Dominican Republic, never seen anything like it. It was quite the operation.
One that continues to haunt Craig.
It's something that's going to keep coming back to me, and you just have to shudder and then just carry on.
Steve acknowledges how close to disaster they came.
I do feel that if that aircraft hadn't seen us, we would have been so far out in the middle of the ocean by the morning, we wouldn't have been found.
That's all from Close Calls today. See you next time.